it's April 6, 2022 AD, and we're headed a little early today. Usually we get out early on Thursday, but now it's also Wednesday, and we're gonna go to Dallas and make some bagels with Linda.
Please subscribe show. YouTube, Cole Spivey. Yeah, man.
And once again, welcome to the Please Subscribe show. I hope y'all like the hard rain series that I did. Now remember, that all happened in one day, even though they were posted over a period of 2 days. It happened on April 4th, and then I believe, or was it April 5th? I have to look at things because I know April 5th was yesterday, so I believe it happened on April 4th. That's when the hard rain came in, and then I posted it on April 5th and made another comment on April 5th, so it was April 4th. So those were the 3 vlogs that happened on that day, and I got hit with a lot of rain. Front bumper of my car, I had to, it's okay, everything's fine. It wasn't really the bumper, it was kind of the underguard, because rain can get in there, and I had to push this little thing up because I went through so much water at one time. You couldn't really see it in the vlog. Luckily, I was okay. I got through it. It scared me for a minute. But Waze, I don't know if Google, they're owned by the same company, so they're practically the same company, but they act differently. It brought me into a neighborhood where there was high water, and I guess they didn't get the report quick enough. Google might have, I don't know. Probably no one would have got that report because it was kind of back roads. So one thing these apps need to do, like Waze and Google, and even Apple Maps, is when there is a lot of water that's coming through, as in rain, when there's a lot of rain water that's falling from the sky, like flood conditions kinds of things, they don't need to lead people into back roads and stuff. It happens very quickly in Texas. So they need to look at weather reports and find out where floods can possibly happen, especially on traveling. And they need to block those off so that, especially the companies that work with Waze, and send their workers or people that work with them, send people that work with them into possible dangerous areas. It could have been more dangerous than what it was. Luckily, I did get out okay with little damage, but it looked pretty bad. You could see it in my eyes whenever I signed out after that delivery of Raising Cane's. So that's my request, is if Waze, Google Maps, and Apple Maps could do a thing where they look at areas, topography, of where there could be possible maybe flooding. And if there is rain that's going to happen, then they could possibly avoid people from those areas. And they can do that by looking at weather reports, or they can create an algorithm that's connected to weather reports. You know, it may be a little annoying for some people because it may rain lightly and they may be, you know, urged to go a different direction, but we already get real-time traffic. So if I'm using, let's say, Google Maps and I'm going somewhere, I get real-time traffic. So it'll tell me, hey, you can go 4 minutes quicker this way. We can do the same thing with rainwater and flooding and stuff, and this could save lives. So these are the things that I come about in my vlog, day to day, that could possibly even save lives. Because I'm on the road quite a bit, and I see these things and I experience these things every day. And flooding, especially, you know, when you're on the road, it's not anything to joke about. So that's what I wanted to post today on April 6th of 2022 AD, which that's when this is coming through. Now, I could say I'm kind of a triple daily vlogger, sometimes a double daily vlogger. I'm not just a daily vlogger. If you'll notice, my stuff goes up in like 3s or 2s. The reason why is because my internet service is not as good as Frontier. so I use a different one. And Frontier had like 500 up, 500 down. It was like crazy fast speed. So when I first started all this stuff, I was comfortable in uploading 40-minute vlogs with no problem. Now I'm able to do the work as a filmmaker or as a videographer, however you want to see me. Some see me as a cinematic masterpiece, and some see me as just a vlogger. I really don't care. Regardless, now that my internet speed has changed, I can send things up in 15 or 20-minute segments. So one daily vlog will go up in 2 or 3 parts as different episodes. For one thing, I do that so I can keep track of each episode. Another reason why is it's so that it can go up. So a 20-minute vlog can go up quicker than a 40-minute vlog if your internet speed's not as good. So if my internet speed improves, then it probably will be a 30 or 40-minute show that will go up on a daily vlog, most likely. This is a daily vlog channel that I'm doing. Pretty much, it pretty much is. I check in almost every day, check the dates on whenever I show you the dates right here. So it can go up 1 or 2. It's very different than Adam the Woo, very different than Jordan the Lion, although I am inspired by them, but I'm not vlogging Burt Reynolds' house or going out in front of movie stars' houses and stuff like that, because I'm not from that area. I'm from the DFW area. So I do things differently, but I am inspired by some of the things that they do, and they help me along the way because they have ideas that I can use. And as a good artist, you always take ideas from other artists. That's always happened, and it always will. So anyway, I just wanted to say that about Google Maps and Waze and things like that. Another vlogger that I also pay attention to is Breck Roll out in Waco, Escaping the Mouse, and mostly just because he's a local famous vlogger, and he happens to be from California too. Anyway, I just wanted to make that note. I think the other 2 vloggers are not necessarily from California, but they've lived there, and I've lived in California myself. But anyway, yeah, we're about to pass St. Paul's. All right, so for today's reading, we can only see the top part of it. It says St. Paul's Lutheran Church and School. The Lord keeps all. That's all I can see on that one. You can only see the very edge of it because that median's too high, or they need to raise that sign. And for you people that, oh, they're from Delaware, right there. Anyway, this is a lot of traffic right here. We're outside of Fort Worth. So it's about 9 a.m. and this is what it can look like. Of course, you take the expressway and you want to pay a little bit more. I don't really do that anymore. I had to pay a lot of money in TTA because I used to be in rideshare. So I've paid them quite a bit of money. But I usually try to stay out of express lanes. A lot of times they're not necessarily always faster. In some cases they can even be slower because a lot of times they're narrower, and if everyone jumps on there at one time. In this case, it looks like it might be a little bit quicker. I'm not for sure. But I'm going to take this way over here.
Honoring excellence in live Broadway theater are handed out in 1947 at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York. Another first today in Major League Baseball. In 1973, the designated hitter is introduced to the American League. 1974. Start with their cover of a B.J. Thomas song that reached number 5 in 1969. That's Ron Rewind. I'm David Mandel.
Alright, that guy's crazy. There's a lot of them like him. It's sad because I've met guys like that, and they do wreck. And what ends up happening is they get thrown out on the highway, and it's a 50-50, not even always that, if they even survive it. And the Speedway has a problem with it too. Right now he's doing okay, but they go by you at about like 100, 120 miles per hour, and it's a sad situation. I seen one of them running from the police coming out of Irving, and there was like 3 or 4 police cars going after him. They don't always catch them either. I mean, sometimes, if it's a helicopter that And that, you know, I got a whole screenplay about it, or an idea. I haven't written the screenplay yet, but it was called The Heist Movie, which was about these 4 motorcyclists that robbed the Federal Reserve printing engraving. So I used to say it was the Federal Reserve Bank, but it's actually the printing engraving place where they engrave the actual money, which they do in Fort Worth and they do in Washington D.C. But the screenplay takes place about it's concerning that engraving place in Fort Worth, because what they do with that money is they engrave the money there and then they transfer it to either Washington D.C. or I believe a Federal Reserve in Dallas. But this is about 4 motorcyclists that are basically high-end thieves that have an inside person that's kind of like a big fan. How you doing? Inside person that has worked for the engraving place, which is kind of like a high-tech kind of guy who does all the hacking and stuff for them, because they have to hack their way in too to get past the security systems and stuff like that. But one of them actually pretends like they work there. It's a long. It's not the opening. The opening starts with the actual robbery, and then they go off to these different areas. One goes north, one goes south, one goes east, one goes west, and they have these camping spots. It's a little bit inspired by Taylor Sheridan's Hell and High Water, only that was a small time banks. This is more of like a Michael Bay movie. Also, another thing, just to remind you about Michael Bay too, for inspiration, if I ever start the screenplay, Ambulance is coming out this summer with Jake Gyllenhaal, which I actually worked with him on set. But the werewolf screenplay idea, I'm still kind of getting the last end of it. It's almost finished. That one used to be called Grace, but I think I'm changing the name to another working title, calling it Werevlog. And that one I'm going to continue working on too. Remember back in the day when you could write screenplays and send it to Cinemobile through Sid? Remember that guy Sid that wrote those books? Remember him? Sid Field, was that his name? He had a little screenplay book. You could send your screenplay to Cinemobile and went to this place where you could read it and stuff. I met a guy that he was an actor. He ended up moving to Boston. I met him in Maine, but his roommate actually wrote a screenplay called like Abraham Lincoln the Vampire Slayer. He actually wrote that from his dorm room or something, or from a small apartment, and he knew the guy. It happens. You can write a screenplay. I've written a lot of them, and they can get pushed through and sometimes even rescued and even done. One thing though that I think is the major problem with Hollywood is they'll take the ideas from other screenplay writers and they'll steal. And it's hard to combat them. But sometimes they won't, because if they need the immediate screenplay at that moment, it's probably sometimes easier for them to just get a hold of the writer and, say, okay, we want to use your screenplay, and pay them off like a few $100,000 or something, just to pay them off. And then later on in life, that screenplay writer ends up making millions. They start off just making a few $100,000 starting off nowadays. It used to be back in the day in the 70s and stuff, they'd only make like a few thousand, or even like maybe 10,000 if they were even lucky. Now they'll just pump out $100,000 to them, because movies make more money. The only thing that makes more money in the entertainment business than movies are games. Games actually are the highest banker. We're talking about games for PS3, games for Xbox. Games make the most. But movies, actually, when it comes to entertainment, like old school entertainment, movies make the most. And then comes the music. Music's in third place. First is the gaming, then the movies, then the music. That's why there's so many games based on movies, because they make almost about the same. A lot of times, if you're like a new filmmaker and you make an action film, and they do end up turning that into a game for Xbox or PS3. And when I mean games, I mean video games. I don't really hear that a lot, though, the word video games. But, not necessarily arcade games. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, like, games that look kind of like a movie. They're PS3 games, PlayStation games, Xbox games. those are usually sometimes based on movies. So if you got a really good action film, then all of a sudden you go and you look and there is either a game that's very similar to it, or there's a game with the exact same name and the filmmaker gets a lot of credit from it. I actually know some actresses in Hollywood that are actually making more money off doing voiceover for games than they are for small parts in movies. It's amazing, this gaming thing. You know, GameStop, all that stuff, very serious money, very serious money. You got someone that works for GameStop, you're probably looking at a future millionaire right there, believe it or not. GameStop and games and PlayStation, all that kind of stuff, big time money. Just let me tell you, they'll steal from Werevlog just as much as they'll steal from Grace, which is the same screenplay. They'll steal from it. I have another writer friend that writes screenplays, and they steal from him all the time. See, the writer has to go out there and sell their story to people. They have to tell the story out loud, because storytelling is about speaking it out loud. It's about speaking it out loud. That's part of the process of storytelling. Ask John Milius, or any of them, Paul Schrader, they'll all tell you, they tell their stories to other people. These are the great screenplay writers that were trained at UCLA and other great places, okay? Which UCLA didn't take me, but the New School did, which is out in New York. But let me tell you something, it's okay. Just stand with that screenplay. It's a better story. Your story's better, and they'll pick it up later, because they lose money when they steal. Trust me, some of the screenplays they stole from me, the ideas they lost money on. So they won't lose money on your idea, because God knows that that's originally your idea. But Werevlog is a good one. There'll be some horror film that will come out about vloggers, people that vlog, and a monster will kill them, you know, as they're vlogging. You know why? Because it's a good idea. Why? Because I have good ideas, right? And that will come about, and it'll make me mad. But I'm hanging on to Werevlog anyway, even if I have to find a way to make it myself. And remember, if you're a writer and you write a screenplay, that is your property, right? It's your property. Imagine if just some company came by and took your house, took your front yard, took your backyard, just scooped it right out of the ground and walked off with it. You'd be really upset, because that's your property. A screenplay is someone's intellectual property. Could you imagine if Mark Zuckerberg woke up one day and someone stole Facebook from him? He'd flip out, because that's his property. That's his intellectual property. And it belongs to someone else too, because he got sued for it. Regardless, you could be sued over intellectual property as well. But look, there's ways to prove that you wrote your personal screenplay, and that's called the mail or email. Email can be proof of it too, because you can store your stuff through email. But if you really write something and it's in its most perfect form, go ahead and mail it to yourself. And the United States Postal Office is a pretty good copyright infringement kind of, I don't know if that's the right word, but copyright tool is a better word, because they actually stamp on the mail the date. As long as you don't open it, then when you take that to court to say, look, I wrote this screenplay and it's been stamped by the United States Mail, that's a good way to prove copyright reason that is actually yours. It can go from poetry to your book, screenplays, or anything. Also, another thing too is if you send it through email, that's a good way too, because you have a lot of other things attached to that particular email. And if they can prove that that's you and your email, then they can also prove that that's your story. Do you know what I mean?